All right, so the last thing that we're going to discuss is the match statement. Now let's suppose that somebody gives you a country code. Let country code of 44. Now this is a dialing code, so it's to do with telephone numbers and how you would dial a particular country. So if you were to dial the UK, you would start by 44. So let's suppose that we want to find out the country given a country code. Now obviously this isn't like a continuous range of values, in the sense that country codes do not go from 0 to infinity or anything like that. There's just a few country codes for the countries that you know. So let's suppose that I want to find out the country for a given country code. The way to do it is by writing a match statement. So I can match the country code that I got. I can match the country code against a couple of values that I know. And I don't know every single country code. I only know a few. I know that a country code of 44, for example, corresponds to the United Kingdom. So this is how I would write it. Now, what's happening here? Well, essentially, we're looking at the value of country code and we're saying, does the value country code match 44? If it does, then the block that we're in returns UK, and UK it gets written into the variable country. Otherwise, and I can put a few more cases here, I can say that 46, for example, corresponds to the country of Sweden, and 7 corresponds to Russia, and we still have a problem because I don't know all the country codes. It might be some country code that we don't know. So in case of catching all the other codes, what you can do is you can put in an underscore. That's basically a catch-all condition that says that if we didn't match against any of these three, then we're going to say that the country is unknown. Okay, so let's not forget a semicolon here. Now we can actually print out both the country code as well as the country. So I can say that the country with code this is this. So country code and country. All right, let's try it with 44. The country with code 44 is obviously the UK. If I change it to a 7, for example, it's going to be Russia. And if I change it to 77, which I do not actually have a match for, then it's going to do this catch-all statement and give me the unknown value. So the country with code 77 is unknown. Now here comes a particularly tricky part that is a bit cryptic. Now match is an extremely powerful statement, and we're going to talk about pattern matching later on in the course, where we're going to see just how powerful match is. But one of the cases I want to show you is what happens if you want to catch a range of values. Now we know that country codes are somewhere from 1 to 999. They cannot exceed 999. And in fact, they don't, or at least, well, let's make the assumption for this example that they don't. And we already talked about the ranges previously, like 30.41 gives us all the values from 30 to 40 exclusively. It does not give us the value of 41. However, I'm going to mess with your head a little bit because we're going to match against not just a single value, but we're going to match against a range. And what I'm going to say is that the unknown printout is only going to happen for valid country codes, and valid country codes I'm going to define as all the values from 1 to 999. And notice what I'm going to write here. 1.999. So this is very confusing. First of all, we had just 2 dots in the range here, and we have 3 dots in the range here. So it's a different notation, but also, and this is bizarre, here the value of 41 is actually excluded from the range, whereas here the value of 999 is included. So we're saying that if the country code is 44, then that's UK. If the country is 7, that's Russia. If the country is not any of these, but it is in the range from 1 to 999 inclusive, then we're going to print the value of unknown. And if it's some other value, then we're going to print invalid, because it's an invalid code. It could be like -1 or 10 million, for example. So let's make it 7777, which is a clearly invalid country code. And let's actually run this. Okay, so the country with code 7777 is invalid. It's an invalid code. Now let's make it just 777. It is a valid code. We just don't know what the country is. So it should print unknown. And that's exactly what we get. Now, the key thing here is what happens if I change it to 999. Let's run this. As you can see, the country with code 999 is unknown. It's not invalid. So essentially, this kind of range with a triple dot includes not just the first value, but also the last value. So the last value is not treated as a terminal, as a cutoff condition. So the difference here, I just want to stress this out so you don't get confused, is if I had 1 going to 99, and you'll notice that you cannot actually use this kind of range inside a match statement. You have to use this kind of range. So this kind of range, if I wrote 1 to 999, this would effectively include all the values starting at 1 and ending at 998. Whereas here, this range matches against all the values from 1 to 999 inclusively. So 999 is included in the possible values of the country code. So I just wanted to stress this out because it is a bit confusing the way that Rust has actually implemented this. And this is how you use the match statement. We're going to talk about the match statement quite a bit more when we come to pattern matching. But for that, we need to have a bit more knowledge about the data structures that Rust supports.